Okay, so this is looking at video 4, which is social relations, and this is going to specifically focus on prejudice and aggression. In the textbook, it is on pages 664 to 678. And really, the section is looking at how people relate to one another. And let me make this bigger for you. So, first off, what does prejudice mean? Prejudice means a prejudgment, usually a negative attitude, towards a group, often of a different culture, ethnic, or gender groups. Prejudice is a mixture of beliefs. They include stereotyping others, having certain emotions towards others, and actions of discrimination. So let's break those things down. So remember, prejudice is the idea of having a prejudgment and a negative attitude, and it includes all three of the following. Stereotype is just a belief or a judgment. It could be negative, but it is a belief or a judgment. Discrimination is a negative action taken against a person because of a membership of a certain group. You're going to discriminate against maybe a male or a female. And then it also includes different emotions, usually hostile emotions. So where did it begin? Social roots to prejudice. Why does prejudice arise? Well, one is social inequalities. Another is because there could be a division with in-groups and out-groups. And then another reason why is because emotional scapegoating. So what are social inequalities? Social inequalities is the amount of money and opportunity a certain group of individuals historically can have impacts the inequalities. For a long period of time in the United States, there were certain groups of people that were more well off or wealthy than other groups, and that can impact the prejudice throughout the country. Discrimination can also increase stereotypes and prejudice throughout the interaction. Another reason why prejudice occurs is because of in-groups and out-groups. It's human nature to select groups based on similarity. And you're part of an in-group and you also have an out-group. An in-group is a circle that defines us. It's people with whom you share a common identity, whether the in-group could be all females or another in-group could be a certain ethnicity. The out-group is a group that you're different from. Okay, and oftentimes we have an in-group bias as we favor our own group. Scapegoating can happen. Scapegoating is the theory that prejudice, the ideas of having the emotions and having the discriminating against a group of people, often allows an outlet for anger by providing someone to blame for a situation. The Jews were blamed in World War II for making Germany broke. So they were an easy culture to scapegoat at that time, according to historical evidence. And oftentimes it blames an innocent person for one or two troubles that takes place. Again, there's that example of in the United States or in Europe, it was the Jewish people that the Nazi parties did blame. In our culture here, September 11th, many people lashed out against Arab Americans because of what took place with September 11th. They needed somebody to blame, and so that was their target. There are other things with the cognition that takes place in our mental set that can impact prejudice. So the categorization. Oftentimes, researchers believe that the other race effect occurs. The other race effect is the ability to recognize our own race's face better than others. So if you're a white female, it's easy to identify if you had a variety of white females in front of you, you would see these white females of having very different characteristics versus having a group of African American women in front of you. This idea believes that you see them very similar because they are of a different race than you. So seem to think that our race is more diverse than other race. Another thing that cognitively can impact prejudice is the vivid case of memory, the tendency for violent cases to be more readily available in our memory and therefore include our judgments based on a particular group. And then the last one is what's known as the just world phenomenon. People get what they deserve. And we've talked about this with the highwayman example. A lot of you were blaming the wife because she gets what she deserves. Tendency for people to believe the world is just and people get what they deserve. And this can also play in with how we see prejudice. Aggression is any physical or verbal behavior that is intended to hurt or destroy. So this section now, we talked about prejudice. Aggression is another idea. Any physical or verbal behavior tended to hurt or destroy. It can be planned or sometimes it's reacting out. And there are some biological and social aspects of aggression. The first one is the biological. Genetics. Studies have found that there may be a genetic markers found of those who continuously commit violent crimes. Maybe it's passed down genetically. Others say there could be neural circuits. Studies have found that when certain areas of the brain are stimulated with electrodes, aggressive behaviors can be inhibited and produced. Others believe it could be a connection of hormones, alcohol, and other substances that can cause one to act out. The social factors of aggression. They found that with adverse events, studies show that those who are miserable often make others miserable. Frustration aggression principle is the idea that frustration creates anger, with which some people create them to be aggressive. So here at the bottom it says if someone can't reach a goal because it's too difficult or somebody stops them, they become frustrated, and then that could lead to aggression. Our actions are more likely to be aggressive if we've experienced this aggression and when we're rewarded, even though we express the aggression. So if you start in a fight and people start laughing at you, then you're more prone to be aggressive because people are positively rewarding you. So I broke it apart. There'll be another video continuing on that talks about romance, love, and it talks about helping behavior, but this is the first part of social relations.